You don't always hear the sound of a dream dying. Sometimes it slips away so quietly you don't even realize it's gone. For me, it was a Tuesday. Not a dramatic day. Not a storm. Not some tragic moment. Just a regular Tuesday, where I was sitting in traffic, halfway through a job I didn't care about, answering emails that meant nothing, and pretending that everything was okay. That was the day I realized I hadn't thought about my dream in years. Not days. Not weeks. Years. I used to want to write stories that changed people's lives. I had journals full of ideas, characters, and plots. I used to stay up all night scribbling down scenes. But life, or what we call life, chipped away at it. A job here, a bill there, a heartbreak, a relocation, and soon I wasn't a dreamer anymore. I was just another adult playing survival. The worst part, nobody noticed. Because most people around me were doing the same thing at giving up quietly. Replacing dreams with routines, replacing fire with comfort, replacing belief with excuses that sounded mature. That's the tragedy. People don't even need to be told to give up. Society just slowly convinces them to stop trying. And if that sounds familiar, it's because you probably know someone like that. Or maybe it's you. Let's be honest. How many dreams have you buried because you were afraid of being laughed at? How many times have you talked yourself out of trying because now's not the right time? Let me tell you a story. There was a girl I met in college. Smart, full of energy, always sketching fashion ideas in her notebook. She told me she wanted to design for the biggest runway brands in the world. She lit up when she talked about it. A few years later, I saw her working at a corporate office, not in fashion, but in finance. I asked her what happened. She smiled, that fake kind of smile, and said, "Life! Gotta be realistic." But here's the truth she didn't say. She gave up because no one believed in her more than she feared failure. And that's the truth for a lot of us. People don't always stop chasing their dreams because they're lazy or untalented. No, the real killer of dreams is subtle. It's being surrounded by small minds. It's being told to play it safe by people who stopped believing in themselves a long time ago. It's comparing yourself to everyone who seems more ahead on Instagram. It's trying once, failing, and deciding you must not be cut out for it. You want to know when your dream dies? When you no longer feel the guilt of ignoring it. The scariest moment of my life wasn't a car accident or a breakup or losing money. It was waking up and realizing I hadn't felt alive in years. I was functioning, sure, eating, sleeping, laughing at the right jokes. But that fire? That chaos that used to burn in my gut every time I thought about doing something great? Gone. And nobody tells you how dangerous that numbness is, because you can survive in it for decades. You can build an entire life on top of a dead dream and call it success. You can even make it look pretty on the outside. Nice apartment, stable job, filtered selfies. But when it's quiet at night and no one's around, you know the truth. You know you gave up on something that mattered. And here's the part that stings. You're not getting that time back. Now you might be thinking, well, great. Thanks for making me feel worse. But that's not the point of this story. The point is to wake you up. Because no one else is going to do it. You have to be the one to resurrect your own dream, even if it's been buried for years. Even if everyone around you is okay living small. Even if people roll their eyes when you say it out loud. Do it anyway. The real reason people stop chasing their dreams isn't because they don't believe it's possible. It's because deep down they don't think they're worthy of that kind of life. Somewhere along the way they started thinking greatness was for other people. Let me remind you of something no one told me when I needed it most. You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need the approval of your parents or your friends or your social media followers. You just need you. The version of you that still believes in something more. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to know all the steps. You just have to want it more than you want to be comfortable. Because dreams don't come to life through comfort. They come to life through disruption. You have to be willing to look crazy, to start small, to fail loudly, and still keep going. You have to retrain your mind to crave growth more than approval, to crave purpose more than praise. And you can do it. But first, you have to admit the truth. You let your dream die. And second, you have to decide that it's time to bring it back. This isn't about motivation. This is about resurrection. It's about remembering who you were before life made you quiet, before shame made you shrink, before people made you doubt. That version of you is still in there, and they're not done yet. So no, I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to remind you, it's not too late. But you have to start now. Before another Tuesday comes and your dream disappears forever, they tell you to have a backup plan, just in case. Just in case your dream doesn't work out, just in case life gets hard, just in case you fail. And so you create one. You go to school for something safe. You take the job that pays the bills. You choose the predictable path. You tell yourself, I'll come back to my dream later once I'm stable. But here's the lie no one tells you. The backup plan doesn't save you, and it buries you. Because the moment you create a plan B, you quietly accept that plan A was just a fantasy. You stop fighting for it like it's life or death, because it no longer feels like it is. And maybe that sounds harsh, but let's talk about reality. There's a guy I know, call him Daniel. In college, he was obsessed with music. He had raw talent, the kind of voice that could cut straight through a room. He told me once, all I want is to tour, to record, to live off this. You could feel the hunger in him. But Daniel's parents told him music was just a hobby. So we hide behind our backup plans because they make us feel smart. They make us feel protected. But they also make us forget what it felt like to be alive. You can't build a life you love if your main goal is to avoid failure. You have to stop thinking of your dream as an optional add-on. You have to treat it like your life depends on it, because in some ways it does. Not your physical life, but your inner one, your spirit, your sense of identity, the part of you that refuses to settle. That version of you is suffocating every time you trade meaning for comfort. Every time you nod along in a meeting you hate. Every time you say maybe someday when you know you mean never. People think the backup plan is wise. But here's the controversial truth. The backup plan is often just fear, dressed up as responsibility. There's nothing wrong with being responsible, paying bills, supporting your family, taking care of what matters. But if your version of responsible means never taking a risk, never pushing yourself, never daring to chase the life that actually ignites your soul, then it's not responsibility, it's surrender. One of the greatest traps we fall into is thinking that security is the same as peace. It's not. Security might keep your bills paid, but peace only comes when you're doing what you were born to do, no matter how messy, how hard, how uncertain. People who lived their dreams didn't avoid discomfort. They ran into it. They made it their friend. They failed, publicly, repeatedly, painfully. But they didn't quit, because they knew the backup plan was just an excuse to stop believing. And if that hits you in the chest, good. Because maybe it's time you stop lying to yourself. You can't keep pretending that the job you hate is just temporary. You can't keep waiting for the perfect time to start. You can't keep telling yourself that you'll come back to your dream later. Because later isn't real. Later is where dreams go to die. Let me tell you something raw. There was a time I had no money. Like $3.47 in my bank account. I was behind on rent, eating noodles for dinner, dodging calls from the landlord. But I was still chasing it, the dream. I was still writing, still building, still failing, still showing up. And you know what? That season, as hard and humiliating as it was, I felt more alive than I ever did in a stable job I didn't care about. Because even though I was broke, I was in alignment with my purpose. And I don't say that to glorify struggle. I say it to remind you, struggle isn't the enemy. Comfort is. Because comfort is where most people stay stuck. It feels safe, predictable, acceptable, but it's the slowest death imaginable. People think chasing your dream means leaping off cliffs. But most of the time, it's smaller than that. It's saying no to what drains you. It's taking 1 hour every day to build what matters. It's saying, I'm not done yet when everyone else thinks you are. It's choosing to believe in yourself without a backup plan. You'll never give everything you've got to your dream while you still have a safe place to hide. So if you're serious about this, really serious, burn the backup plan. Not recklessly, not foolishly, but with intention, courage, and clarity. Burn it because your dream deserves your full attention. Burn it because life is too short for maybe someday. Burn it because you deserve to see what happens when you give yourself no choice but to rise. Let others play it safe. You're here to do something unforgettable. They pushed him toward engineering, something reliable, something secure. He told me, I'll do the degree, but music's still the dream. Fast forward 10 years, Daniel has a desk job, he makes good money, he posts vacation pics on Instagram. But ask him about music, and his voice gets quiet. I don't really have time these days, you know how it is. Yeah, we do know how it is. You blink, and 10 years are gone. That's what the backup plan does. It gives you just enough security to stop chasing what matters, and just enough distraction to keep you from noticing the years slipping by. And before you know it, your dream isn't on hold anymore, it's dead, replaced by responsibilities, regret, and a resume. But let's be honest, we're not afraid of being broke, not really. We're afraid of being seen trying something bold and not succeeding. We're afraid of being the one who dared to bet on themselves and lost. There's a moment, and maybe you've felt it, where the pain of staying the same becomes heavier than the fear of changing. It's not always a breakdown. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it looks like waking up one morning and realizing you don't recognize the life you built. Or standing in a room full of people and feeling completely invisible. Or hitting a goal you thought would make you happy and feeling nothing at all. For me, it was sitting in a coffee shop, scrolling through social media, when I saw someone, a random person, living the exact life I had once dreamed of. They were creating, speaking, doing what I had wanted to do years ago. And instead of feeling inspired, I felt sick. Not because I was jealous, because I had the same dream, but I gave up on it. And they didn't. That was the first time it truly hit me. I didn't fail because I wasn't talented or capable. I failed because I waited too long to start. And that realization hurt more than any rejection, any criticism, any failure ever could. You want to know what real pain is? It's realizing you became the version of yourself you used to be afraid of becoming. The passive one. The one who plays small. The one who once said, I'll never live like that. And then did. But sometimes pain is the only thing strong enough to break through your numbness. It shows up to wake you up, to remind you that you were made for more. People talk about motivation like it's some clean, pretty feeling. But the truth? Sometimes the most powerful motivation comes from pain. Not the pain of others, your pain. The pain of knowing you're wasting your life. The pain of pretending you're okay with mediocrity. The pain of wondering, what if I never try? I once knew a woman named Renee. She spent 15 years working in a corporate office, buried in spreadsheets, attending meetings, managing people she didn't care about in a company she didn't believe in. One day she had a panic attack in the bathroom. No warning, just a breaking point. She told me later, I couldn't breathe, not because something happened, but because nothing was happening. Nothing had happened in years. I was dying in slow motion. That moment woke her up. The next month she quit. No savings, no blueprint, just the refusal to die like that. Today she runs her own interior design firm. She's still figuring things out, but she's alive again. Her eyes glow. She laughs louder. She walks differently. Why? Because she finally said no to a life that was killing her spirit. That's what the pain does if you let it. It becomes your alarm clock. It slaps you awake and asks, is this really all you're going to do with your one life? And if the answer is no, then you have to move. Because staying still becomes the most dangerous option. Most people won't understand your shift. They'll say, you've changed. And you'll have to say, yes. Because staying the same was destroying me. you'll get resistance. Not because your dream is crazy, but because your courage threatens their comfort. And they'll try to pull you back down, not out of malice, but because your movement forces them to confront their own stillness. But don't let their fear shrink your fire. Don't let their approval be your leash. You have to get to a point where the pain of not becoming who you were meant to be is greater than the comfort of pretending you're okay, because there is a cost to playing small. You don't just lose time, you lose yourself, piece by piece. You start forgetting what it feels like to be bold, to be lit up, to want something so badly you'll suffer for it, to cry from the beauty of finally trying. People spend their whole lives avoiding pain, but what they don't realize is this: avoiding the pain of failure often guarantees the pain of regret. And regret is cruel. It doesn't fade, it lingers. It whispers in your ear when you try to sleep. You could have done more. You could have been great, but you were too afraid. Don't let that be your story. Let the pain wake you up. Let it make you dangerous again. Not reckless, hungry, not chaotic, focused. Let it strip away the fake smiles and shallow goals. Let it burn away everything that was never really you. Because under all the numbness, the noise, the fear, your dream is still alive. It's buried, not broken. It's waiting, not gone. And the pain you feel right now? That's your body, your mind, your soul screaming at you. This is not the life you were meant to settle for. Listen, use it. Let the pain become your fuel. No one warns you how loud the voice of doubt gets when you finally start moving toward your dream. You'd think that clarity would make it easier. That once you know what you want, the path forward becomes clear. But that's not how it works. In fact, the moment you step out of comfort, the war begins. And the battlefield? Your own mind. You wake up on fire one day, ready to do what you were born to do. Then by noon, that voice creeps in. Who do you think you are? You're too late. You don't have what it takes. That's the voice of doubt, and if you don't learn to silence it, it will rob you of everything you were meant to create. Here's the cruel irony. Most people aren't destroyed by outside obstacles. They're destroyed by their own hesitation. They don't quit because they're incapable. They quit because they start believing the lies their fear tells them. I've been there. So many times. One night I launched a project I'd been working on for months. Something creative, raw, honest. I was proud of it. But after I hit publish, I panicked. I stared at the screen for hours, refreshing the page, watching the views, the likes, the silence. And then I heard it. This is embarrassing. Nobody cares. You're not good enough. And I almost deleted the whole thing. Not because it was bad, but because I wasn't ready for the emotional weight of putting my dream into the world and not being celebrated for it immediately. That's what no one tells you. Chasing your dream doesn't always feel powerful. Sometimes it feels humiliating. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes you do everything right, and nothing happens. And in that silence, the doubt gets louder. But here's what I learned in that moment, and maybe it's the most important thing I'll ever tell you. Doubt isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're finally doing something that matters. Because no one doubts themselves while doing something they don't care about. Doubt only shows up when you're close to becoming something greater. It shows up to test your will, to ask, how badly do you really want this? And that's where most people lose. They don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they expected the journey to feel good all the time. But chasing a dream isn't always thrilling. Sometimes it's a war between the version of you who believes and the version of you who's still scared. Every morning you wake up and choose a side. Your dream or your doubt. Your purpose or your fear. And if you don't consciously choose your destiny, your doubt will choose for you. Let me give you a truth no one talks about. You don't need to be confident to start. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. You start scared, you start unsure, you start shaking, you start with the voice of doubt screaming in your ear. But you start anyway. And then one day, not suddenly but steadily, you realize the voice has gotten quieter. Not because the fear disappeared, but because you got louder. The most successful people you admire, they still hear the doubt. They just learned not to obey it. They kept showing up, kept creating, kept trying, even when they felt like imposters, even when no one was clapping, even when they were the only one who believed. There's a reason you hear the word resilience so often in stories of people who made it. Because that's the real trait that separates those who live their dreams from those who bury them. Resilience isn't about never breaking down. It's about getting back up after every breakdown, even when it's ugly, even when it's quiet, even when no one notices, especially then. The war between doubt and destiny doesn't end in one big victory. It's a daily battle, 1,000 tiny choices, 1,000 moments where you say, I don't care how I feel, I care who I'm becoming. Because feelings are fleeting, destiny is not. You're not here to feel comfortable. You're here to feel aligned. You're here to become the version of you that no longer apologizes for dreaming big. The version that no longer asks permission to take up space. The version that finally says, I'm done playing small. There was a guy I used to follow online. No fancy gear, no studio, no money, just a phone and a voice. He started posting videos about life, about pain, about meaning. People ignored him at first, then mocked him. Then slowly, they listened. Today he's one of the most powerful creators I know. And you know what he told me? Every time I posted a video, I wanted to throw up. I thought, this is trash. I'm a joke. But I hit publish anyway. That's the war. You don't win it by feeling ready. You win it by refusing to surrender. You win it by remembering that your destiny is bigger than your doubt, that your voice matters, even if it shakes, that your story deserves to be told, even if no one claps at first. So if you're in the war right now, if your doubt is louder than ever, hear me when I say, you're close. That voice is screaming because you're on the edge of something real. Don't turn back. Don't let the fear win this time. Fight. Bleed for it. Build it anyway. Believe anyway. You are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are your potential. And it's time the world saw it. The part that most people don't want to hear, the truth that will offend some, free others, and force you to look in the mirror and ask the question that will either resurrect your life or confirm that you've already given up. Most people don't fail because life is unfair. They fail because deep down, they don't actually want to succeed. They say they do. They post the quotes, they watch the videos, they talk about someday, but when it's time to suffer for it, when it's time to sacrifice, to be embarrassed, to start small, alone, unrecognized, they disappear. Because the dream was never the goal. Feeling good about the idea of the dream was. We've created a culture that worships the aesthetic of ambition. People don't chase dreams. They chase the look of chasing a dream. They post about working hard, but quit after 3 months when no one claps. They romanticize the grind, but never bleed for it. They want the results, but not the process. But here's the truth. But dreams demand sacrifice. Not fake sacrifice, not late-night hustle posts. Real, ugly, lonely, blood on your hands sacrifice. The kind of sacrifice that makes people question you, that isolates you, that forces you to grow into someone you barely recognize. Because that's what it really takes to live a life that means something. You don't get to the dream by playing halfway. You get there by going all in, even when it costs you everything that made you feel safe. You think you can cheat the process? That you can shortcut your way to greatness? That you can manifest a dream life without losing sleep, losing comfort, losing friends? Number You can't have both. You either have excuses or you have results. Not both. And I know that sounds brutal. I know it doesn't sound inspiring or motivational. But what's more disrespectful? Telling you the truth that hurts now but frees you later? Or sugarcoating your stagnation so you feel good while your life slips by? You need to hear this. If you've been sitting on a dream for years, if you've been waiting for the right time, if you keep blaming other people, your environment, your childhood, your boss, your lack of support, that's fine. But just admit it. Admit that you're not serious yet. Admit that the fear of failing still owns you. Admit that you'd rather keep dreaming about the life than actually building the life, because building it is painful, messy, uncertain. You want a breakthrough? Here's the most controversial, freeing, uncomfortable truth you'll ever hear. You're not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on you. You think your dream isn't happening because of external reasons. But the truth? The dream hasn't happened because you haven't decided to become the person who demands it. You think it's about strategy, or timing, or luck. But it's not. It's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who no longer accepts a version of life that is beneath your potential. People ask me all the time, how do I stop giving up on my dream? My answer? Burn the alternative. Delete the backup plan. Stop negotiating with your limitations. Stop trying to be liked. Stop waiting for signs. Stop hoping it'll be easy. Stop lying to yourself. You want to stop giving up? Then never let comfort be an option again. The world doesn't give dreams to the most talented. It gives them to the ones who refuse to stay silent about who they are and what they came here to do. The dream isn't about proving something to others. It's about proving something to yourself. That you can be the one in your bloodline who broke the curse. That you can be the one your younger self would be proud of. That you can live without regret. That you can look in the mirror and say, I gave everything. And maybe you don't win right away. Maybe you don't get the applause. Maybe you don't see the results for months, even years. But you'll sleep better than everyone else. Because you'll know you were brave enough to try. Let others live half-lives. Let others play safe. Let others be critics, spectators, excuses wrapped in skin. You're here to build something that outlives you. But it starts with a decision. Not someday, today. So I'll end with this. If anything in this story hit your heart, if any part of this woke something up in you, don't let it fade. Talk to me in the comments. Tell me what dream you buried. Tell me what fear has been controlling you. Tell me what pain woke you up. Tell me what you're building, because I'll be there. Reading, responding, connecting with you, reminding you that you are not alone, and maybe, just maybe, today becomes the day you stopped watching life happen and started creating it again. Now go build the life, live the dream, and never, ever give up.